Welcome to the Same Day Podcast, where we discuss driving incremental business growth and other topics related to real estate, property management, and entrepreneurship. Now, to the show at hand.
Hi there, Yoni Schmidt here, hosting today's episode of the Same Day Podcast, where I connect with top business and real estate leaders, entrepreneurs, and the likes. Past guests include Chip Gabrino, a local entrepreneur, restaurateur, Elliot Nelson, the CEO of McNally's Group, and Morgan Martin of Merrill Lynch. Today's episode is brought to you by Keyrenter Property Management. At Keyrenter Property Management, we are a full-service property management company that can help our clients buy, sell, renovate, and manage, and of course, operate real estate assets. We help our clients build wealth while taking the headache out of real estate ownership. Go to KeyrenterPMC.com or email us at info@KeyrenterPMC.com for additional details. Today, I'm excited to host David Morgan, the founder and publisher of the Morgan Report, a leading investment newsletter that helps individuals build and preserve wealth through precious metals, honest money principles, and sound economic thinking. David is a vocal advocate for sound money as a pillar of freedom, making him an essential voice in today's complex economic climate. Welcome to the show, David, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate your invite.
David, so let's just, dive right in. Talk to us a little bit about why sound money, particularly, silver, gold. Why is it so central to individual freedom and national sovereignty?
Yeah, that's a very good opening. And if you don't mind, I'm just going to talk about a missive that I wrote about a month ago. And in fact, some of the sound money advocates that I've known for years, because it's, one of the main foundations of my business, have taken this and published it in their publications. It's titled "Freedom Dies When Money Lies," and it's something that I'm pretty happy to have written.
Yeah, and so
Let me just go a little bit further. Sorry, I had a little delay in my a little technical glitch there. So there's an old truth that we forget our apparel. When money loses its integrity, freedom soon follows. Throughout history, the erosion of honest currency has marched lockstep with the erosion of civil liberties. Connection is not coincidental, it's causal. Because money is not just a medium of exchange, it is the lifeblood of voluntary action. When it's corrupted, everything downstream begins to decay: personal agency, self-reliance, and ultimately freedom itself. So that's kind of a nutshell. I've got a lot more written we can talk about, but basically everything revolves around the monetary sphere. That's why I get so interested in it as a kid, and of course an adult as well, that no matter who we are, what our nationality is, what our religious beliefs, money is the way that we actually transact, communicate, and interact with each other. And if it doesn't have integrity, then what the heck is going on? And of course, it did in my lifetime through August 15th, 1971, when we were on the Bretton Woods system, which was gold-backed. And after that time, we have degraded the currency, not backed, and printed more. So every unit becomes less valuable. And on top of that, we know from studies of the past that there's a direct correlation between the moral decay of a society at large and the debasement of the currency. So in other words, when the Roman Empire started on the denarius that was almost pure silver, they had much higher morals, higher structure, basically a system that worked quite well for almost everyone. It was more or less fair across the board. But at the end, when they had continued to debase the silver coinage, where it was mostly gross metal with a little bit of silver coating, the whole societal structure had basically crumbled. And the ruling class, that at one time was a representative government, became in it for their own gain only and basically pillaged whatever was left of the Roman Empire. So that's sort of a quick overview of where it's been in the past and the way I see it present.
Yeah, and I definitely want to touch about monetary policy in a second. You mentioned something a moment ago, and you've also argued that inflation is a form of taxation or a hidden taxation, right? Can you unpack how inflation erodes the freedom beyond just, economic terms?
Beyond economic terms, well, that goes back into the idea of, does it degrade the moral structure or our relationships with our fellow citizens? And it has to do with, I think it could be almost subconscious, because it could be conscious or unconscious, but if you know that the basic system is an ultimate lie, and the lie is every one of us, almost every one of us, teaches our children or our grandchildren that you can't get something for nothing. There's a
Mhm.
price to pay. You've got to work for it. And with that in mind, if you see the whole system is actually structured where the top elite, banking elites, do get something for that. They actually run the system based on keyboard entries on a computer and create what we call money or currency with the stroke of a of a digit. And that actually is something that we, the people, have to work for. When you know that, it gives you the idea, or can give you the idea, well, if they can do it, I can do it. In other words, if they're chiseling off of us and taking more and more labor and paying us less and less in real terms, then why can't I put inferior ingredients into my candy bar and sell it at the same price? Or why can't I? And it just becomes rather pervasive throughout the society, where everyone starts chiseling off of everyone else to get an advantage rather than have honest weights and measures.
Mhm. Let's talk, I guess, a little bit about, the Fed's monetary policy over the last 50 years. How do you see that erosion of, I guess, like civil liberties come to life and to fruition, um, you know, based on this monetary policy over the last 5 decades?
Well, if you believe it, I believe, and I believe that money is power to some degree. And if you look from the top down, if you look at the political class, a lot of them are basically bought and paid for. These are people that align with the lobbyists, and the lobbyists are the ones that influence the Congress and the senators to provide the new legislation. So from the top down, you see this idea that money has a power and control over society. And a true representative government, as I mentioned in the early days of the Roman Empire and in the founding principles of the United States, basically the political class was supposed to represent us. Now they represent corporations, and people don't really understand how really impotent the political class truly is. Most people believe that the politicians have a great deal of power. The most powerful man on the planet is the president of the United States. That's absolute,
Mhm.
complete, and total hogwash. The truth is, it's the corporations that run the legislations, that pass the bills, that get the let's say, tax advantages to certain entities because they have the power to control Congress to get the legislation in their favor so that they can be more corporate farms rather than mom and pop farms. As one quick example, but I could go on and on, but I'm certain, Yanni, that you've got the idea and you might want to expand on it.
Yeah, I mean, let's expand on, how can the everyday investor, or what can the everyday investor do right now to protect themselves from this, from systemic risk, from these types of risks? What is it that you would say is step number 1 through 5?
Well, first of all, I would say an article I wrote, and I do a lot for the public, as you know. I mean, I think my main function really is as an educator. And
Yeah.
I wrote an article that the basis of all wealth comes from the land. So really, you grow something on the land, you mine something under the land, or you build upon the land. So I'm highly favorable to the commodity sector and real assets such as real estate. So one of the best forms of wealth for legacy wealth are really three things. One is land, two is precious metals, gold particularly, and the third is fine art, which is outside of my league and most people's leagues as
Yeah.
far as, buying a Rembrandt or a Monet or something like that. So if you go to the first two, the Europeans have an expression, never sell the mud. So we'll put that number one. It's land, and we'll break that maybe into one and two. So land, never sell the mud. So if your family owns a block in Berlin, um, the buildings that have been on that block have changed over the years, but they never burn. The expression is never sell the mud. So then if you own the land, you don't ever give it up. You just pass it down. The real property on top of it, where you built a store, might gets taken down and turns into an apartment complex, whatever. You get my drift. So that's an addition on top of the land. And of course, that could be for commercial or residential purposes. And so that would be 1 and 2. 3, gold, or you could use silver as well. Long-term store of wealth, and it maintains purchasing power. In other words, the purpose of money is to have the best form of labor exchange, so everyone fulfills their highest purpose and is rewarded for it in the best way. So you don't have to barter apples for lumber or cotton for candy. You can exchange something that we all believe in. But the primary purpose of that medium of exchange being readily recognizable is it's also a store of value. And today's money does not store value, it stores digits, and those digits decay over time. And that's what the hidden tax of inflation is. So because they print more and more, we find that the value goes down and down and down. So your peso, your yen, your yuan, your euro, your US dollar becomes worth less over time and worth less over time, and it's finally becomes worthless. And when that starts approaching that dimension, people universally wake up to the fact that, wait a minute, I can't afford to go, I can't afford my groceries anymore. What's going on here? I actually got a raise and still can't afford my groceries. So it's insidious at first. And at the end of the great inflations, it usually works toward a hyperinflation where the people, as sleepy as some are, wake up to the fact, wait a minute, something is drastically wrong here. How come I was having a good living, able to go on vacation and, splurge now and then, and I'm making more money now than I ever have as far as the number is concerned, but I'm poorer than I was 10 years ago. There's no doubt in my mind that I'm poorer. And this, of course, is, again, that hidden tax. So it'd be 1, 2, and 3. It'd be real estate, land, improved real estate. Gold and silver would be like 3 and 4. And fine art, I really won't comment on. But I think, based on, what a little bit I've learned about you, Yanni, and, it's entrepreneurship. I think the real, one of the principles to me for, freedom is not having to work for the man. In other words, being able to be your own boss. And that takes entrepreneurship, and not everyone is inclined that way. But a lot of people are, and a lot of people that are inclined or think they're inclined that way go out and try it and find out that some succeed and some don't. But in most cases, it's a little more difficult. It sounds great. Oh, I want to be my own boss, make my own hours, and, not have to answer to anybody. Well, no matter how high up the ladder you are, you're going to answer to somebody. For me, I answer to my membership, right? And that's fine with me. But as far as making my own hours, I made my own hours. I was working like 10-hour days, 6 or 7 days a week when I started. But because I was so passionate, I truly wanted to do it, the passion held me over for those exceedingly long hours and days. And of course, that's all behind me now. But a lot of people aren't willing to put up with that kind of demand on themselves in order to create something that can become a means of making a living on your own or with a group or business.
Yeah. What's the saying? It takes a decade to become an overnight success.
Exactly. Well said.
So, let's dig into entrepreneurship a little bit. You mentioned, earlier when we were chatting, before we started the podcast, the world needs more entrepreneurs. The world does not need more entrepreneurs. It needs more authentic entrepreneurs. Can you unpack that a little bit for us? What are you seeing, in your world from your point of view, and, dealing with a lot of people who are seeking this, means of financial independence and freedom? Are they all entrepreneurs? Are they investing in gold and silver? And I mean, final question, I guess, on that is, are they actually holding the gold and the silver, or is this another line item in their stock portfolio?
Yeah. Okay. There's a lot to unpack there, and I'm going to even broaden it up a little bit. First of all, I just finished my documentary after 2.5 years. It's for free for everyone, and it goes into the questions you just asked. So let me reflect back on that. It's at the URL silversunrise.tv. And the subtitle of silversunrise.tv is the fear control that money has over people. It's breaking free of the fear and control and stress that money brings a lot of people. So I would say on the entrepreneurial question that the broad reflection is purpose and service. Now, most of my subscribers, my paid memberships are business owners, believe it or not. I know that after 25 years because of my interface with them, how many times, I've picked up the phone, talked to them, gotten emails from them, called them back, that type of thing. Not all, but many of them are, and they built it the hard way, as you said, the overnight success after a decade of hard work.
Yeah.
And they want to preserve what they've built. And they understand enough to know that things aren't working correctly. They found me by, whatever, an investment conference, listening to one of my podcasts or whatever. And they asked for advice. So but I'll say that the broad reflection is the purpose and the service. So the best entrepreneurs that I have met are the people that don't see money as the means. They see money will come to them because it's really just a tool. And money is a tool that can be used to create things, to help others, to build a business, to give to charity, to buy a yacht, whatever it is. But it's a tool, really, it's a contribution that we get from whoever we interface with, but it's not a control mechanism. And that's where I reemphasize what I said about the money powers. The money powers use money as a control mechanism, where an entrepreneur doesn't use it for control. They use it really to bring what the free enterprise system is all about. It's a win-win situation. When I buy a coat from someone at the men's store, I think it's more valuable for me to have that coat than to have $175, whatever the value is. So store owner says I win because it's more valuable for me to have the 175, and I think it's more valuable for me to have the coat. So we're both winners. That's the idea behind a true free enterprise system. The next step is legacy in the next generation, which gets into you. We talked about off air slightly. And that is how today's leaders can restore trust and build a future rooted in sound values. What I talked about earlier about people chiseling off each other, the whole system is corrupt from the top down. Well, that's okay. If the system's really that way, then it's all right if I do it too. No, it's not. It is not. You have to own your own integrity and not use any, shortcuts or fast tracks or, other means to get to the end. The end does not justify the means. The means is high integrity. You're going to make mistakes. When you make them, you correct and continue. So to repeat myself, today's leaders can restore trust and build a future rooted in sound values. If you have the right heart, head, and hands, and if you need help, hire the right people, and you might make some mistakes doing that. I have. You will still press forward. And the final thought, of course, is what we talked about, and that is the world doesn't need more entrepreneurs. It needs more authentic ones, those who build on truth and will define the next age. And that's sort of the underlying theme of the Silver Sunrise documentary, that we have been taught collectively, especially in North America, but it's pretty pervasive on a world basis, that for us to have happiness and for us to have success, it's something outside of us. If I get the right car, or I get the right house, or I get the right job, or the right wife, or I write the right book, or I produce the right music, I'll be happy, I'll be successful, I'll be noted, and I'll be appreciated. And most people lack the feeling that they're appreciated enough. But all those things are external to you. When the real system, I would say system, the real idea is that what you have within you is what's priceless. And your actual integrity, your authenticity, your ability to be you, your unique self, some people refer to it as your higher self, your best, always and everywhere. That is what's priceless. That is what can't put a value on. So the reflection of success can be the fact that you have high integrity, that you're honest, that you deal fairly with everyone, and that type of thing. So the movie kind of stresses the idea that maybe we're worth a lot more than what we can put in our bank account. And coming back to your last question of physical gold, yes, I do teach people, just like in the romance novels, the French romance novels, to actually have some gold coins and silver coins. Not that it's a money of last resort. And it is outside of the system, because if the system has a major problem, you have a counterparty risk. Whereas being from the aircraft industry some years ago, I know that all the fighter pilots have a survival kit. And when you go through survival school, they teach you a lot of things, but one of the things you get in that survival kit is a gold coin. They don't give you $100 bill. They don't give you a Japanese yen. They give you a gold coin. Why? Because when you bail out, you have the best chance of success if you need to evade and escape by using gold. Everyone, almost everyone, knows gold has value.
Yeah, interesting. I do want to ask about the film Silver Sunrise. You explore how money psychologically impacts people in this film. What's the most misunderstood emotional aspects of money in modern society?
That's a tough one, and it's really individual, but I'd say collectively, since I deal in that realm so much and went in pretty deep on the documentary, is, it's not enough. And that's kind of an inside-outside thing that I said, it's like, I don't have enough. Well, it's I don't have enough stuff outside of me, or I don't have enough stuff inside of me. So I was saying, are you familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs?
Of course, we learned it in business school.
Okay, great. So I want to turn it upside down, in the hierarchy, and you probably have a better memory than me. But you start at the basics, you have food, water, shelter, and then you get the job. And then as you go up the scale, you get to the point where you're pretty well set, and you can go to the higher realm and look into, self-realization or your higher self or that. I say, no, turn it upside down and teach every kid from, more or less the day they're born. I mean, from the early age, they're enough. In and of themselves, they are that priceless human being. I mean, when you think about really the reality of the human experience, you got to look at how you got here. And you weren't created, you were procreated, but you won the biggest race of all time. You won the sperm race. You're one out of what? I don't know what it is, 10 million, 100 million sperm hit your mother's egg, and now Johnny exists. Think about that. So you're meant to be here, and you have a purpose here, and you have value that can't be put in something outside of you. Because even Alexander the Great, I mean, when he died, he requested that he go through the public, area with his hands open and empty, that there is nothing that you can take with you on the way out. So what really resonates is, what did you contribute to society? Yeah, it can be money. I mean, rich people can build libraries or build stadiums, and I think, that's well and good. But you can also build an idea whose time has come, or you can build, let's say, philosophy that resonates with someone and make their life better, or a rehab center, or whatever. But the point is that I think we're looking too deeply for success. But to circle back, I'm not enough and I don't have enough. It goes both. I'm not enough inside. I don't feel like I'm enough because I'm told I got to have all this outside stuff to be successful. But if we turn that upside down and say, you are enough. What's most useful? The shovel that's sitting on against the wall, the shovel that's being used to dig the ditch. The answers are both equally useful. It's just one isn't being used at this time. So there's a lot, I think, that needs to be really understood on, again, overused first principles, but what the human experience really envelops, because the success factor is not determined by society. It is determined by you, but we don't teach our children that. We teach them the opposite.
Yeah, interesting. In the book, The Go-Giver, they talk about the 5 laws of stratospheric success. I don't know if you read that book, but one of the laws is the law of authenticity, and the best gift that you can give someone is your true authentic self. But that is a very interesting take on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and also um, interesting points that you're raising here about what we should teach our children. Um, you've called precious metals a moral and political imperative. How do you view investing as an act of resistance or sovereignty?
Yeah, well, the idea really came, this come throughout history. And it's been proven over and over again that the whole system is based on trust or confidence. And of course, the con man is the word for
Hmm.
gaining your confidence and swindling you. So over time, if you go back to the monetary history of the United States, for example, they had a script that was issued by the colonies and it worked for a while. And then the Brits came in and counterfeited it and printed too many, and basically the paper money system failed. So when the founding fathers wrote the Constitution, it was written that basically gold and silver would be the only acceptable. And the reason it is it's a trust mechanism outside of man's interference. It's a piece of gold, it's a piece of silver,
Hmm.
and it is a certain weight and a certain purity. And as long as those remain, then everybody can trust it. You don't need to have a counterparty to bless it or put up, a president's picture on it, or for someone to tell you what its value is versus a different currency or any of that stuff. So it has value in and of itself, and everybody agrees to that. There's two theories of money. One is specie money or commodity money that I just described, where everybody more or less agrees that it has value and that the value is determined in each interaction of going, the coat for the money type of thing. And then there is the legal form of money, where the higher power of the society, meaning the government, will mandate or decree that this is what is money and this is what you must use. Otherwise, it's against the law and we're going to put you in a cage. And that, of course, is the way the money powers operate. So it usually fluctuates, very broad brush view, very not inaccurate, fairly accurate, but certainly not all the intricacies that are involved. But you go from a sound money system, bimetallic or monometallic, to a fiat failure, back to a
Hmm.
gold standard, to a fiat failure, back to a gold standard. That's kind of been, again, the broad brush view of monetary history. Now, it's leaving out a lot, but it also does give you the idea that once these currencies do fail, that there's got to be a principle that is reenacted that brings trust back into the system. This time, I'm not so sure. This time, it appears with my study that the leap from a fiat system, and many of my peers disagree with me. They think we will go back to, gold or silver or sound money tie
Hmm.
again, and we may. That's certainly what history shows. But I'm more of the idea of what they've told us, the bankers, that they want a central bank digital currency or some type of digital surveillance type of money
Hmm.
system that gives them even greater control than they have now with a cashless society and the ability to only be able to use money if you have a digital ID, which is basically your DNA. And once you have given them that, then you have the ability to do commerce. And if you
Hmm.
don't do that, then you're outside of the new system.
Hmm. So you're saying we shouldn't go back to gold standard. We should have a new system here that, I mean, isn't that more restrictive?
Yeah, no, I'm the opposite. I'll just interrupt you. No, I think we should go back to sound money. I mean, that's basically
We
what
should.
it's been about. But what I'm
Yeah.
saying is, unfortunately, I don't see us doing that. I think we're leaning more toward a higher control system. I mean, going back to our initial opening statements with each other about freedom and money. I mean, they go hand
Hmm.
in hand. If you have a free money that's determined by the public at large, and you have voluntary action, and you don't, it's nobody's business if I paid $175 for that coat or not. It's between me and the guy that sold it to me. But why does the government have to know that, I have too much warmth and they're going to tax me because I got a better coat than the guy next door. So
Yeah, got it. Very interesting. David, tell us a little bit about what the Morgan Report is focused on right now. How can our listeners get involved or learn more about your work and just the general mission?
yeah, the general mission statement is to teach and empower people the benefits of an honest monetary system. That's my mission statement. The reports are free and paid. The free version, just go to themorganreport.com and sign up for the free report. You'll get 3 or 4 emails a week. And then the paid service, you can just click on the tab and they'll bring up a video and an explanation, kind of a sales page, if you will, about what we get. But right now we're focused mostly on the precious metals, but our uranium investments are up about fivefold. Our investment in a rare earth element, one of the best rare earth element companies in the United States. I've known these guys for years and it fell off. It was off about 30%, but it was more or less speculation. So I give them a lot of room. It's up about 500% as well. And I think it's going further. We are seeing the United States government actually taking interest in buying shares into some of these critical minerals. This one may, it's a rumor. I'm not saying it will. I'm not going to give the name. People pay me for this information. So we really make money in the resource sector. It's not just gold and silver, although that's the primary focus. But we've been in uranium. We're in this one rare earth element company. We have a couple of cryptos. And a lot of it has to do over the years with battery metals, copper, cobalt, lithium, the exotics at times, like platinum. So it's basically how to invest in the resource sector. And I weight the portfolio. Blue chips first, top tiers next, um, small producers with exploration potential, which is the best model to make a big score, and then rank speculations. But for example, the rank speculations, it's money you can afford to lose. Whereas in the blue chips, if you bought my favorite silver streaming company, that company is up 25-fold, and that's one you could put big money. So let's say, for an example, you put in, you have a $100,000 portfolio and 25% went into that company with 25,000. That investment will be worth 625,000 right now. It's up 25 times, whereas silver's only up 10 times. So you can make more money in the mining sector with the right equities if you know how to choose them. If you do them on a average basis, you're better off just buying the metal itself.
Got it. Gold, final thought here a little bit about, gold, which we've seen fluctuate over the last, call it what, 2 weeks, week and a half or so. And looking at the chart right now, I'm on Google and I'm looking at, gold in the market. It really went up and then it dropped and it came back up and it dropped again. And now it looks like it's flattening, around 39.6250 is what it's showing right now. Um, Talk to me a little bit about you know, gold, how it fluctuates compared to, things that are happening in the world, right? Um, how do those play into effect on, the price of gold and what advice would you have for people who are watching it?
Yeah, the great question. I think the best answer is that gold is a barometer. And I contrast that with a thermometer. A thermometer tells you if it's a hot day or a cold day or whatever. A barometer gives you kind of the weather ahead. So airmen and seamen use it a lot. They look out at the barometer, say, "Oh, baric pressure is dropping. Got a storm coming in. I've got to prepare. Maybe cancel my flight plan or fly on instruments or what have you." So gold gives you kind of a bigger look at what's ahead for the world economy, basically. And so you bear that in mind. And of course, the thought experiment is very important because people always want to know what the price of gold is and have I made money or have I not made money? And the truth of the matter is it's upside down because an ounce of gold is the same mass anywhere in the universe, always and everywhere. So it never changes. So what does change? Well, the price changes. What is the price? Well, the price is how much currency has been printed versus that ounce of gold or that quarter ounce or that piece of gold. And that fluctuates. And they're constantly printing more. So you would think that the price keeps going up day after day, but it doesn't work that way, because the influence of the financial markets are that the dollar is strong, the dollar is weak. But over the long term, gold does its job of preserving wealth, which means that an ounce of gold in Roman times will buy the same goods and services that an ounce of gold will buy in modern times. And over the long run, it does do that. It's just, it does fluctuate like any market, where it can be undervalued, fair valued, or overvalued. Right now, it's been undervalued for probably the last 25 years, probably undervalued since we went off the quote unquote gold standard of the Bretton Woods Agreement. And now we're getting into fair value territory, probably just a touch under fair value. So in order for gold to go the gamut, meaning undervalued, fair valued, overvalued, I think we're going to get in that realm in the next probably year and a half, 2 years. Could go longer, but normally these markets accelerate at the end as people decide, I can't afford groceries anymore, as I discussed already, and now I've got to do something about it. Any spare cash, they're going to say, you know what, I wish I could buy gold, but it's $4,000 the ounce. I've got $2,000 in savings. I think I'll put that in the silver. So next time I go to the grocery store, I'll be able to buy the same amount that I'm buying now. So that is the purpose of it.
Interesting. David, thank you so much for educating me, enlightening our listeners, educating our listeners. If people want to follow you, they can do that on LinkedIn and through the Morgan Report, correct?
That's correct.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
Well, I enjoyed the discussion. I'm glad we got to be a little philosophical, because as a grandfather now, I think about my kids and my granddaughter, and I just want to build a better planet, and I think it starts with just open discussions like this. You're doing a great service to teach people entrepreneurship and real values. And I like what you said about the authenticity. That's pretty much one of the main themes in my documentary. So thanks for bringing that to the fore.
Love that. Yeah, Matt Zelk recorded a podcast with the author of the book, The Go-Giver, and I highly recommend reading it. Again, talks about the 5 laws of stratospheric success, and I can say it changed my life for sure.
Thanks for listening to the Same Day Podcast. Tune in to a new show each week and be sure to subscribe to get future episodes.